that. He's going to have a Q&A at 7 o'clock, which is going to be before the film, and that's over in the Curtis Theater, and that's free, so please come. As I see it, there are three types of noir protagonists. You've got the criminal, whether he's a criminal at the beginning of the film, or if he becomes a criminal based on his actions within the film. You've got the anti-hero, who treads the line between dark and light, doing good things in a bad way. And then there's the hero who's forced to act like a criminal due to external pressures put on him, whether he needs to prove his innocence or protect his family, whatever like that. With Kiss of Death, the first scene that we have is Nick Bianco, our hero, played by Victor Mature, robbing a jewelry store on Christmas Eve. Obviously a criminal. But what happens throughout the course of the film is that he's also forced to act like a criminal based on external pressures while he's in jail. So Kiss of Death tries to have it both ways. And what this does is it sets up a more a standard conflict, except instead of good and evil, as we would have in a normal Hollywood film, we've got sort of shades of evil. Instead of good versus evil, we've got bad versus very, very bad. So it creates sort of an ambivalence about the main character. We know that he's a criminal, we're not supposed to necessarily root for him, and yet he's not nearly as bad as the villain. So he becomes, in our minds, the protagonist and the one that we're rooting for in this contest. And it's also sort of a reference to the society-based criminal, which is the gangsters of the 30s, versus the psychologically created criminals of the 1940s film noir. So it's sort of passing the torch from one criminal to the next. And this is supported in several ways throughout the film. The first that I want to mention is through the names of the characters themselves. Our hero is Nick Bianco, Bianco, Blanco, White. We've got the white hats, the white coats, the good guys are always in white. The district attorney that proves to be his saving grace, his ticket out of jail, is D'Angelo, or from The Angels. Richard Widmark plays the villain of the piece named Tommy Udo, which a little bit of internet research turns out that Udo is a short form for Ulrich, which is German for wolf people or power of the wolf. And if you watch the film, and you will tonight, you can see that Richard Widmark has a very wolfish smile. But beyond that, there was a Saint Ulrich of Augsburg, a bishop in the 10th century, that had several patronages, one of which was a patronage against mice and moles and rats, which is what Nick Bianco becomes throughout the course of the film. It's also underscored by the noir style that you'll see. Most of the film is shot pretty straight, except for when Richard Widmark is on the screen or the threat of Richard Widmark is present. So all of the bars across the face, or the dark, deep shadows, or the peering through the curtains, it all happens while Richard Widmark is there, adding to the suspense and the menace that you feel throughout the film. Udo lives in a noir world, and so it's Bianco's intrusion upon that takes him deeper and deeper into the psychological sort of milieu. Also, the presence of guns is very interesting. As I said, he's holding up a store at the beginning of the film, and for the first 7 minutes, we've got this villain with guns, but it disappears for an entire hour throughout the middle of the film, and the guns only reappear again once the threat of Udo is there. So Udo builds up this credible threat without ever using a gun throughout the middle of the film, and it's only through guns that Bianco feels that he can defend himself at the end of the film. And of course, the standout performance of Kiss of Death is from Richard Widmark. This is actually his first film. He'd been doing stage for a few years. Widmark was realized as a star from the very beginning. The New York Times noted that he runs away with all the acting honors. Variety said he's just about the most shuddery menace of the year. The LA Times said he creates one of the most authentic and terrifying gangster types in screen annals. And the Chicago Tribune says, he gives a blood-freezing enactment of a giggly gangster whose laugh is more terrifying than other men's oaths. I love that quote. That's really good. Unfortunately, it sort of typecast him, and he became sort of the star of many, many film noir over the year. Over the next 3 years, he made, in this order, The Street with No Name, Roadhouse, Night in the City, Panic in the Streets, and No Way Out. It was only after Panic in the Streets that he began to break out into different roles, usually military types. But he's now gone down as one of our great stars in film noir. So I do hope that you enjoyed him in this film, and I hope you enjoy the entire film. Have a great night.